Welcome to episode 15 of the Maddie's Joy, an Angelman Journey podcast. I'm your host, Adam Birchmeyer. On today's episode, Aaron Ferguson joins us to give a sibling's perspective on Angelman Syndrome. Aaron actually wrote in the Wisconsin State Journal an article about his experience with having a brother with Angelman Syndrome, and I will actually put that in the show notes. So if you haven't read that article yet, please check it out. I hope that you enjoy. All right, we have a special guest today on the Maddie's Joy podcast. Aaron Ferguson is joining us. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's a
Yeah.
pleasure to have met you guys down in Texas, and yeah.
Yeah, we met briefly at the family conference, and then I'm excited to see your family again at the Angelman Walk. So that's gonna be fun. Um, but let's get into this. So you have a brother who has Angelman syndrome.
hmm
Just kind of describe your brother and who he is as a person.
Oh man, my brother Caleb, he's just a bundle of joy. We could easily say the Caleb's Joy podcast, but I think that just describes Angelman syndrome, right? Like every angel you see, like they have bad days, obviously, but I don't know. My experience is 95% of the time, Caleb's wearing a smile. He's very content just to watch his iPad. I we're pretty certain he is multilingual because he likes to watch shows in Spanish and Japanese, and he just finds all these different languages. And it's kind of funny. So we always joke that he can understand anybody in any language. I think like a lot of angels, he loves water, obviously. But I think the cool thing for me is like I grew up playing baseball, and now, he obviously loves going to Major League Baseball games or minor league baseball games. And through Easter Seals, in the Detroit area, they have the Miracle League of Michigan where you can play on like a synthetic rubberized surface, so it's safe for his wheelchair or his walker. And he can play his own version of baseball on a nice warm Saturday in July. Um, Not anytime soon here in April or May, but it's cool to see just his different interests, the things he likes to watch. We found his favorite holiday is Christmas because he'll watch the Christmas episodes of whatever at any time during the year. It's just cool to see like how he expresses his personality. Obviously, the Angelman community knows that a lot of our angels can't speak or talk like you and I are doing right now, but that doesn't mean they don't speak and talk in their own language, and they have their different ways of expressing themselves. And it's a challenge for us to figure out what that looks like and what they want, but it's also kind of a beautiful thing because they just have their own ways and really surprise you in a lot of ways with the things they can do.
Yeah. Growing up, I mean, you do have some neurotypical siblings. So when was kind of the first memory that you have that your brother was maybe just a little bit different or took in the world a little bit differently than you and your siblings?
Man, I don't even know, honestly. Like, I can't think of the first time. I can't even, like, I don't know. It's just been a way of life, right? Like, I'm 5.5 years older than my siblings. They're triplets, so that's why I say my siblings. But only one has Angelman syndrome, and that's Caleb. My other brother and sister, Micah and Lydia, they've been great siblings to Caleb, and that's probably why it's a little bit more of a blur because when you get three at once, it's a little, I don't, not even culture shock. It's different, man. Like you've got you got to help out with changing diapers and watching them and stuff like that. But I do remember like life was different for me growing up because it's like, yeah, I'm 5.5, 6 years older than them, but like, one memory I can think of like pretty, it's not a great memory, of course, but like one summer day I was out playing in the yard with friends. They had the sprinkler going, and I don't know how old I was, 8, 9, maybe, just a guess. I don't know. But My mom's yelling at me to come inside the house because Caleb's having a seizure. And it's like, first of all, it's like, okay, I'm a little bit familiar but I just don't understand the severity of it at that point. It's like, oh my gosh, the ambulance is coming. Like, what do you need from me? Stuff like that. So life was always different for me growing up, just as much as it was different for all Angelman siblings. But I wouldn't trade any of it for anything because it's really shaped who I am as a person.
Yeah, that must have been pretty traumatic. I remember when Maddie had her seizures, being, I think I was 32 or 33 at the time, like it affected me in a profound way. So I can only imagine, being 8 or 9. But what's your favorite memory so far that you've experienced with your brother?
Man, I don't know, just doing life with him. Like, it's really hard for me personally. Like, I'm so big on family. As we were just talking before we started airing, it's like I went and saw my family in Michigan, and then I flew down to see my sister in Florida. And I got to see my brother who was home from college over the Easter holiday, and it's like I just love experiencing life with them, whether it's a family vacation. Caleb got a Make-A-Wish, and we got to go to California, which was really cool for the Rose Bowl and the Rose Bowl parade, and see all these different marching bands. Um, there's just so many memories. Like, I'm big on events and experiences and just doing life because it's we're very blessed in the ability that we have to go and do these things, and especially with our angels, and help them experience the different things that we also enjoy that they can enjoy, whether it's a concert or whatever. Um, yeah, so I can never limit it to one because I love Caleb and love hanging out with him.
So, how do you build a relationship with Caleb? Because obviously you're big on family. So that means, you have a relationship with your brother, you have a relationship with your sister. So, how do you build a relationship with Caleb? Um, Being that he's nonverbal, how do you go about building that and making memories with him?
Um, so it's a little more challenging now because I live in Wisconsin and they're in Michigan. But I think the foundation was set just growing up, being the oldest of three. As the oldest sibling, other older siblings know, you have a little bit more responsibility, whether it's watching your siblings so mom can go to the grocery store or whatever the case may be. So a lot of it was that. I think we had a Caleb-proof bedroom even to this day, but especially when he was growing up. It'd be simple things. It's just like going in and sitting in his room with him and watching TV, like, or maybe he's playing with toys and I'm the one watching TV. But just being with him and being around him, and he and I have kind of, I, it's probably not fair to my parents to say this, but like, I feel like he and I just really understand each other on a deeper level because of all that time I spent, quote unquote, watching him, while mom was running out or the kids were, my brother and sister were doing other things, whether it was band or, whatever it may be. So really just spending time together, kind of getting to know how to like use his eyes. He speaks with his eyes a lot. So if there's something that, if you give him a choice, he'll pick one or the other. He'll grab the chips or he'll grab the cookie. But sometimes you can follow his eyes to see like, okay, he's looking in this direction. What's in that pantry, or what's in the other pantry. Um, just different stuff like that. Like, I've spent so much time with him, it's easy to pick up on things. And then I would just say like talking to him, like it sounds really dumb sometimes, but like they understand what you're saying a lot of the time, especially now that Caleb is, gosh, he'll be 23 in a month. So, just every time I go home, when I get ready to leave to come back to Wisconsin or whatever, like I'll just sit there for few minutes and just explain like, hey, like it was great being with you for a few days. I'm going to Florida or I'm going to Wisconsin and you'll see me in a month. And one of the cool ways he's expressed himself, and also very emotional for me, is like his face will get sad. Like he'll express sadness that I'm leaving, and it's like, oh, I don't want to leave. So yeah, I mean, it just takes years of experience, I guess, and being around him and trying to find different ways to communicate. We've tried the iPad thing, which doesn't he hasn't fully grasped. there are sometimes he'll just use it out of the blue, usually when we're not paying attention to him, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, just spending time with him.
Your article in the Wisconsin State Journal, right before Angelman Syndrome Awareness Day, you talked a little bit about like the sib shops and Friends with Wings. So, kind of expand on kind of your involvement so far and your experiences growing up, with other siblings with that had Angelman brothers and sisters as well.
Yeah, I love the family conferences. I think for me, now that I'm starting to attend a little bit more of like the not research sessions, but when the clinicians come in and give their talks, I'm starting to sit in on those more and just learn more about Angelman syndrome and the types of medication and what else is going on. Especially with my brother getting older and my parents getting older and I'm getting older. There's some life conversations that are going to have to be had and steps that we figure out from there. But yeah, so I've always loved the conference because for me growing up, it's like this is like the one place where people understand what I go through, like because they live it. I have great friends and they're very understanding of different things. But it's difficult to explain and be like, this is what I'm dealing with. But when I'm at the conference, it's like, no, you get it. Like you've lived the same experiences that I have. So from that, I think it was I don't Anaheim was maybe 2005, I want to say. And I was like a little kid on a panel in front of like all these adults, and I don't really remember anything from that except that I spilled water, which was super embarrassing. But I also didn't care because I was a kid amongst other young adults. Um, but I've always wanted to like help raise awareness and offer my own perspective on things. And being a sibling specifically is it's a tough gig. Like especially when I was the only child for a while, it's like you get all the attention, and now like I even feel bad for my typical siblings, quote unquote typical, because it's like man, they were all born at the same time, but Caleb gets all the attention or most of it, I'll say. So it's like I feel bad for them, and just seeing it from both like my own experience and then like trying to put myself in my brother and sister's shoes. It's like okay, like I have a pretty good idea of what other siblings go through. And then I want to say it was Phoenix in 2015 was the first actual sip shop that Robin Wilkerson put on. Um, and yeah, they just asked me to be a part of it and help facilitate discussions and different games and stuff. Um, it never goes as scripted. Like there are some fun games. Like some years, one thing does generates a lot more discussion than the other. It's just different every year. But I really enjoy being with like the high school slash preteen age kids because they bring up some very real stuff that they are like, man, I'm really struggling with this area, and it's cool to like kind of help them through that. And then each conference we go to, it's like, hey, like it's so good to see you again. It's been 2 years, or we follow each other on Instagram, or what. We can always reach out. It's like building our own little network. The parents have their own networks, the siblings have their own networks. So yeah, it's just really cool to see like the people year in and year out, and just how the different or how the discussions differ, but also how they're so similar in that um, there's just great conversations and discussions and some real life like hard stuff that we deal with that we're able to share about and kind of support each other with.
Yeah, you had mentioned a little bit earlier that some tough life decisions need to be made soon. And that's something that concerns me if, Nicole and I have another child, that they'll feel a certain type of pressure or, feel like they're expected to care for Maddie when we're no longer here. Being the oldest, you always carry a certain type of responsibility, right? I never had that because I was the baby of the family. Um, what do you say to those siblings who might feel a responsibility to take care of their Angelman sibling, um, but might not be ready to take on that responsibility?
That's a great question because that's kind of where I'm at, and just where we're at as a family right now. Um, like I have my own thoughts on it. But I also know my other siblings have their own thoughts on it, which may not be what I think their own thoughts are. Uh, so obviously a discussion needs to happen. That's something that has kind of been, I don't want to say like pushed on me in a negative way, but that was something that was brought up and was like, that was what I took away from the Angelman conference this past summer in Austin or Round Rock. Was like, we need to have that conversation. And I even said it to my mom last week, is like, look, we probably not, probably not the summer, but like maybe when we're all together in December or something for the holiday, like we need to sit down and figure this out because we know that, Michigan's great because Caleb can stay in the school system until 26. It's the only state you can stay that late. But my parents aren't getting any younger, and Caleb is not getting any easier to lift in and out of the van and out of his room, and he contorts his body in ways that he makes it very clear what he wants if you're trying to walk with him somewhere. And so like I don't know. I don't have great advice because I'm in that spot right now, but just make sure your voice is heard, whatever the decision is. My parents have been great. They're like, we don't want to burden you with Caleb, and like I don't look at it that way. Like I just want what's best for my brother and want what's best for my other siblings and see if we can figure something out. So maybe check back and like, next year and maybe I'll have a little bit better advice or an answer there.
All right, I'll put it on the calendar and we'll have you back on. um, so another thing that you brought up in the article is after moving to Wisconsin, you got involved with the Angelman Syndrome community in Wisconsin. Um,
Mhm.
Obviously, your brother has Angelman Syndrome, but what kind of drives your passion for the community as a whole?
Um, wow, that's a good question. I get told I ask good questions all the time because I'm a journalist. That was a good question. I think it's just like I want people to be aware, like not so much of Angelman syndrome. Like, yes, I want them to know what Angelman syndrome is, but just like in general, like just because you see someone who appears a different way doesn't mean they're not, capable of doing great things. Like living with living with Caleb, who has Angelman syndrome, has just like taught me so much about life. Um, you know, like I think about it all the time, but like I take life for granted every single day. Um, I'm fortunate to I'm fortunate to be able to walk and wake up and, clothe myself, bathe myself, fix my own food, feed myself. Um, I can walk to the car to drive myself, to go to work, to provide for myself and, um, make a living and go do fun things, go on fun trips whenever I want. Like I'm really grateful and just super blessed to be normal. When so many people in this world will never know what normal is. And like it's just like it's so humbling. Like, man, I can't even. I'm just like choked up this whole time. Like, I just can't even like fathom what life would be like had Caleb not been my brother. Like, would I be the one who's looking at someone differently because I don't know what they experience? I would like to think, I would want to help everyone regardless. But it's changed my life and changed my life for the better to see things in a different way, put myself in other people's shoes. I think I'm grateful for my Wisconsin Angelman family friends here, whether it's, going over to Milwaukee into the Deer District to freeze my butt off to bowl of frozen turkey, or go play cornhole in small town Wisconsin. Just to have these people here that, similar to going to the ASF conference, like they get it. Like they know what having a child is like, or they know what having a sibling with Angelman syndrome is like. So being able to share those experiences and go to those different events and be like, hey, like, yeah, I'm here for you. Like, whatever you need, like, I'm here to help. You need to spread awareness. Like, I'll get you connected to the local media if you need to. Like, I'm willing to help however it may be. Or if you need me to write the press release or whatever, like, I don't know. I just don't know. Like, it's just a different lifestyle. Like, it's been such a big part of my life for 23 years now. So, like, why wouldn't I do it?
And this is actually my favorite part of the podcast where I don't stumble over my words or ask a question in a weird way. I am going to turn off my microphone. I'm going to let you do your final thoughts, anything that you want to add. I really appreciate some of the perspective that you brought today. Um, we will be sharing your article that you wrote in the Wisconsin State Journal in the description. So if people out there haven't read it yet, it's a great read. Um, so final thoughts and how people can get in touch with you because you are a journalist. So, your Instagram, your Facebook, whatever you have out there, make sure that you put in a plug for yourself. So turning off my microphone now.
No, just thanks for the opportunity to share my experience. I, it's hard to, I'm never good about talking about myself. So thanks for plugging the column. Please do go read it. Because I think it was really difficult to write too for that same reason. Like I don't enjoy being in the spotlight. I don't, it's really not even about me. It's about Angelman syndrome and living with Angelman syndrome and what that looks like. It was again to spread awareness for International Angelman Day. Um, but like I got so much great feedback, and I try to like it was very true. Everything I wrote was true. Like all that stuff did happen, but at the same time, it was like I really wanted to speak and let it be very powerful and just how I wrote it. And I think I did a good job of that. It echoes some of the stuff I've said on this podcast. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, like life with Angelman syndrome is just such a blessing. Like I just think kind of speaking on some of those other items like hit on a little bit, but it's like people will apologize. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." It's like, no, like you should be sorry for saying that. Like, come on, man. Like I really wouldn't change anything. Because Caleb is just so special. There's so many angels out there who and that's what's great about going to the conference or going to fundraisers is like you just see people who are at different stages of life. Like some angels can walk, and like I think that's wonderful, and it gives me hope that maybe one day Caleb can walk. Some people are good at least at some modified sign language, and Caleb has some modified sign language, but uh, sometimes you have to force them or bribe them to use it. um, it's just cool to see the different strengths that angels have, the different weaknesses that they have, and it's a community that I feel like is built on hope. Hope that one day there's going to be a cure. There's going to be something that helps our angels in better ways to not have seizures or whatever it may be. So yeah, just thanks to all the researchers and clinicians who have dedicated so much of their lives to Angelman syndrome. uh, Thank you to those who will in the future, because I know I've met quite a few who, their siblings are angels, and so they want to study Angelman syndrome and contribute to that cause. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. Like Angelman syndrome is, while rare, just such a tight knit community, and everybody, seemingly cares for what's best for each other. And so, yeah, the best way, I guess, to find me, I'm on Twitter. The handle is sports underscore AARON, Aaron. I'm on Instagram at A underscore FERG underscore WRITES. Or you can find me on Facebook. Just my name, Aaron Ferguson. Um, I don't know that link at all, but I'm all over social media. I'm in different groups. I like to comment on things, like and love posts, or offer support, encouragement, whatever the case may be. But yeah, get out and walk. I know, what was that? We're tomorrow. Well, I don't know when this is posting, but a month from tomorrow is the Angelman Walk on May 20th. So get registered and sign up to go do that. Go to different fundraisers throughout the wherever your locales are. And yeah, just lean into the community. Like it's a great community. There's so much joy and hope and laughter and smiles. And yeah, if you need anything from me, or like I'm happy to help, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, I don't know. It's long-winded. Cut that out.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it and sharing your perspective because I mean, Maddie was diagnosed a year and a half ago maybe, and I
Mhm.
always talk about it from a young parent side and just hearing how a sibling feels growing up with an Angelman brother um, kind of gives me a new lease on life and kind of what I previously thought. So thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you for all that you do for the Angelman Syndrome community, and hopefully we have you back on the podcast again.
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow.